Good morning. Welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. It is Monday. We are down to two teams left in two different conferences in the NFL. We've got the AFC Championship, the NFC Championship on deck. We had a fun weekend of NFL games and also college basketball, everything else going on here on SportsGrid. Tremendous job from all of our crew covering these games in-game live and Pro Football Today and leading up to it as well. Now I'm here to put a bow on it on this Monday morning. Thanks for being part of the show. Of course, we got some great guests coming up. Vinnie Iyer from Sporting News, Warren Sharp's in the house, guest contributor from Legal Sports Report today is Mike Mazzeo. But I'm sure this morning at the water cooler, or wherever you're watching this show, whether you're streaming us on your new Samsung or Vizio TV, you're just like, what is this channel SportsGrid all about? I'm glad you hit play. I'm Craig Mish. Good to see you here on this Monday morning. Now I'm going to take you through all the NFL games this weekend in case you missed some of them. We'll start off with the Texans and Ravens. This was not much of a game. Let's be honest. It was not much of a game. The Texans, you see the 10 points on the screen there. Really 3. I mean, they got a punt return for a touchdown. Baltimore dominates. They cover the spread also. May I add, the total here came right down to the end. Some people, it went over. Some people, it was a push. Some people, it went under. I'm going to get to Warren Sharp with this a little bit later in the show. I think that was like the closest big line of the weekend there. Now, that was the first game of the two on Saturday. The second game, far more competitive. One of the best games of the weekend, I would say. Packers and the Niners. The San Francisco 49ers head to the NFC Championship. They didn't cover clearly in this one as Green Bay led for the majority of the game. So they will host the NFC Championship against Detroit. It's the second game, by the way, of the two games on Sunday. So that's the late game. And the reason why Detroit is now headed to the NFC Championship is because they took care of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the second half of their game. The Bucs had a lot of chances in this one, too. Lions do cover the spread. This one flew over the total in the second half. It was a low-scoring first half, but the Lions did just enough to now head to the NFC Championship, where they are 7-point underdogs this weekend against San Francisco. Now, the game of the weekend was last night, one of the best games of the year, as it went right down to the wire, and Tyler Bass missed a field goal wide right as the Kansas City Chiefs are headed to a 6th straight AFC Championship Sunday at 3 o'clock Eastern. My goodness, is that right? 6 in a row. I mean, that's just an incredible number, very Patriot, Tom Brady-esque. And so there you have it. Now, obviously, the Ravens are favored over the Chiefs. This is the interesting line, by the way, going into the weekend, too, because you're seeing some 3.5 and some pullback to 3 and up to 4. So we could see some movement with that game. But generally speaking, that sets the table for what will be an epic AFC and NFC championship. And by the way, for the second straight year since these new rules were implemented in the NFL, the two number 1 seeds with that bye week actually made the most of it and head to the AFC and NFC championship. Maybe something to watch in the future there as well. Okay, coaching hires around the league. Antonio Pierce hired by the Raiders on Saturday. Chicago Bears have a new offensive coordinator. It's going to be Shane Waldron. He spent the last 3 seasons in Seattle. Bears, of course, looking for someone to help out with whatever quarterback they have come next season. The Titans interviewed former Stanford head coach David Shaw. The Eagles, no surprise here. They have fired their defensive coordinator, Sean Desai. He lost play calling duties to Matt Patricia mid-season. Also, Matt Patricia doesn't look like he's going to be renewed as well from some of the reports that, by the way, happened during the game last night on social media. You usually don't see that sort of stuff during games. Matt Patricia is going to be looking for somewhere else to go, maybe Bill Belichick. And also, Bobby Slowick completed 5 head coaching interviews. Current offensive coordinator interviewed with the Titans, the Falcons, the Seahawks, Commanders, and the Falcons. So that's the very latest in the National Football League. Now, in college football, we've got some new hires as well, so let's get to those. Buffalo has hired Pete Lembo as their next head coach. He was South Carolina special teams coach. He gets a 5-year contract. Jim Harbaugh has yet to make a decision on where he's going to coach. He did show up at the Ravens game, and he's interviewing now with the Atlanta Falcons for the second time. So, hey, Bill Belichick interviewed a couple of times. Looks like Falcons are really doing their due diligence. Maybe something happened with that Belichick interview after the second time. Really don't know. Former LSU lineman Lance Hurd, he is transferring now to Tennessee. He was the number 3 tackle in the recruiting class. And you may have heard this name, Jaden Rashada. The NCAA has opened up an investigation. He is a previous member of the Florida Gators and their university in the 2023 class. It was coming from an NIL deal with Gator Collective, not affiliated with the university. and just some different things happening with that. So we'll see where Rashada ends up, but he's a name definitely to keep an eye on in the future. Okay, in the National Basketball Association, are the Atlanta Hawks going to be able to win without Trae Young? We're going to have to find out. He had a concussion over the weekend. He's out indefinitely. They lost to the Cavs 116-95 with just under 9 minutes to go in the fourth quarter after taking a charge, and Young going to be out. So adjust those lines this week. Tara Vanderveer set the record for the most wins in NCAA basketball history, passing Coach K. That's right, Mike Krzyzewski, 1,203 career wins. So congratulations there. How about the number 2 team in the country in college basketball in this insane year that we've seen thus far? Number 18, Ohio State, takes them down 100-92. Caitlin Clark, 45 points in this game for Iowa. And by the way, she was leveled by one of the fans who ran on the court after the game. Women's basketball this season has been insane. Can't wait for their tournament coming up this year. Also, Tulane officials are investigating a fan who made contact with a player storming the court as well. So this seems to be sort of a trend that maybe they're going to have to get more security or figure this out because we don't want the players getting hit by this. Okay, PGA Tour season. We got the Farmers coming up this week. Huge tournament in Southern California. Nick Dunlap becomes the first amateur, by the way, to win a PGA Tour event since 1991. Sophomore at the University of Alabama won the American Express on Sunday. I didn't see a single odds maker picking Nick Dunlap to win, although Phil Mickelson went on social media last night to congratulate him. Now, this has brought some controversy here in my neck of the woods here in South Florida. Florida Panthers forward William Lockwood has been given a 3-game suspension for goalie interference, a sort of rare penalty for something like this. And by the way, controversy as well, because it didn't even really look like he did anything. But needless to say, Lockwood going to be missing 3 games for the Cats. Also, Hall of Famer Patrick Waugh gets his first win as Islanders head coach. The Islanders beat the Stars 3-2 in overtime. And also the Department of Justice has joined a suit against the NCAA transfer rules, an illegal restraint on college athletes' ability to sell their name, image, and likeness in the suit in Washington, D.C. We'll see if this gains any steam. Naturally, we've seen a lot of coaches talking about this. Certainly we want the players in college football to be compensated, but it has changed everything as far as the sport is concerned. Players transferring here, there, everywhere as well. Needless to say, maybe this changes. We'll see. Okay, that'll do it. All of our headlines are in the books. Coming up next, we got some more to talk about. We're going to preview all the games coming up this weekend with Vinnie Iyer of Sporting News. So stay with us here on NewsWire as we're off and running here on this Monday. Don't go away. Smarter to be on SportsGrid. We'll be right back.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
Go run, run, run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
Right now, he's a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division
I don't care if they win, because all we care about is the money, baby, the money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Last year, the Purdue Boilermakers upset by the 16 seed Fairleigh Dickinson. Is history going to repeat itself?
Purdue is capable of winning 6 games in the NCAA tournament, but the fact is, until Purdue proves that it's capable of not just advancing, but advancing far in the bracket in March, this is going to be the storyline. And I've said that to you throughout the offseason.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
I'm not going to lie. I'm a Knicks fan. I feel bad for Obi Toppin. I mean, Obi Toppin was backing up Julius Randle, and then he got his opportunity in Indiana, was playing great, didn't play D, brought him off the bench, and now they got Pascal Siakam, and now he's going into a free agent year. So Obi may be looking for a new home. But I do like that fast break if it's Halliburton with Obi and Siakam.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
they were best friends. Like they like Siakam's best friend on the team was Chris Boucher. Chris Boucher's best friend on the team was Pascal Siakam. They're not American, right? So like there's different cliques in the NBA, and they were very, very tight. So Chris Boucher, I got rattled like seeing Chris Boucher and thinking about the memories. But Raptors responded.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
One that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Good morning. Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish. There's Vinnie Iyer joining us, courtesy of Sporting News. Hey, Vinnie, great to have you back here on the show. How's everything?
Great. We had a great divisional playoffs weekend and looking forward to the conference championships. And before we know it, we know Super Bowl 58, Las Vegas, a lot of action to come here probably pretty soon. Probably the most action we'll get on the Super Bowl of all time.
Yeah, I definitely think so. You know, before we get to the games themselves, the NFL a couple of years ago decided to add an extra team to the playoff conferences and take away a bye week from the playoffs for the teams that get the number 1 and the number 2 seed. And we've seen now 2 years in a row the teams that get the bye after the playoffs advance to the AFC and the NFC championship game. Do you think the NFL wants that to continue? Do you think that's the recipe that they are looking for to make the regular season mean that much more? Because certainly that part has worked, but I mean, look, the Packers played very well against San Francisco, but do we want that being, they like parity. They don't like predictability in the NFL. So I'm wondering what you think about it.
Yeah, I think there's already the parity, right? I mean, I don't know if that bye means as much as we think. I know teams rest, and we know some teams like the Chiefs could have the luxury of resting teams and creating their own bye in week 18, and they probably were well rested, but they didn't have to wait too long to play. Well, these other teams, look, the rest versus rest, I think Greg Olsen mentioned it on the broadcast, it is a very tough balance to strike. So the team stays sharp and they're ready to go, but they're healthy and they're ready to go at their best self. So it's very tough, but again, this is why I think there's a motivation for that number 1 seed. It changes things a little bit. And it also means one less game you need to win to get to the Super Bowl, which is just as big as anything else.
Agreed. Okay, so let's recap the games. I'll get your thoughts, Vinny. The Baltimore Ravens, played, obviously, I would say, the weakest team of them all going into the playoffs. It would appear that way, at least based on the result. The Houston Texans didn't score a touchdown in this game outside of a punt return, and Baltimore essentially dominated the game from the second quarter on. Now, I know that punt return kept them in the game, but this was more or less non-competitive once they blew the whistle for the second half. What do you make of Baltimore advancing to the next round?
Yeah, the Ravens, they are built to play with the lead. So once they get ahead and they're having their offense rolling, I mean, they led the league with 60 sacks. They're the best pass rush in the league. They're a diverse pass rush. They want to get in position to rush the passer. That's exactly what they're doing, and with their strength of their defense. Now, if you can run on the Ravens, just like the Chiefs, they both give up 4.5 yards per carry. If you can stay in the game, keep it close, then the Ravens have a few issues. But the biggest thing is if Lamar Jackson stays on point the way he is passing and running, it's going to be very hard to beat the Ravens no matter who's left in the playoffs.
All right. Now, on the flip side, the Green Bay Packers gave the San Francisco 49ers all they could handle. In fact, led for the majority of the game. Credit to the Packers for being prepared. Credit for the 49ers for coming back and winning. And, when I looked at this one, it just seemed as though they couldn't deliver any kind of knockout punch. Green Bay could not, Vinny, where they just kept kind of letting the Packers hang around long enough. I mean, I don't know that the Lions are going to be that much different from what the Packers are. So I suppose when I look at it, I understand why they made the line 7. I actually thought it may be a little higher given Goff's struggles outside of Detroit. But Deebo Samuel's injury could play a factor in this as well.
Yeah, I mean, Debo might curb some of the things 49ers can do in this game, but you look at the matchups, the secondary really struggles against the deep ball. They gave that up quite a bit to the Buccaneers. We know to Mike Evans. Brandon Ayuk is going to be a handful on the outside. He wasn't as big of a factor as expected against the Packers. I think that'll change, especially if Samuel can't go. And then George Kittle. I mean, the Lions give up a lot to the tight end. You saw K. Dotton just blowing by them in coverage. And George Kittle has been awesome at home with Brock Purdy when he needs them the most. So those two matchups in particular are really good. And you look at the other side, the 49ers are pretty good against the tight end. They do struggle a bit with slot receivers, so Amon-Ra St. Brown could have a big game here. But overall, looking at it, I think the defense-offense matchup really heavily favors the 49ers in this one.
Yeah, no, I think so. And the Bucs, credit to them also for a season that didn't look great from the start, but finished up very well. All right, now let's move on to the game of the weekend, one of the best games of the year. The Chiefs end up defeating the Buffalo Bills by 3. The reason? Bills couldn't kick a field goal at the end of the game. But there were some things within that game, Vinny, that happened that we're still talking about this morning. Bills going for it on a fake punt to DeMar Hamlin didn't work out. Chiefs getting the ball, for some reason giving the ball to Mecole Hardman, who fumbles on the 1-yard line and out of the end zone. So I think both teams squandered chances to win the game. But in the end, it's Kansas City going to their 6th straight AFC championship.
Yeah, and one thing we've taken away from Kansas City's first 2 playoff games, this offense is back, right, to what we almost think it should be. And they had some troubles in the red zone, especially against the Dolphins. They kind of corrected some of that and getting Travis Kelce the ball. He ended a 7-game touchdown drought in a big way with 2 scorers there. So Travis Kelce looks like the old Travis Kelce. Rashee Rice is still very dangerous as a rookie wide receiver. They even got the deep ball going to Marquez Valdes-Scantling. And the other thing the Ravens struggle with that the Chiefs do well now in the playoffs, they're feeding Isaiah Pacheco. They struggle against power running games. So if the Chiefs stick with Isaiah Pacheco and keep their offense balanced, setting up the big plays downfield, making it easier in the red zone, then they're going to have a shot against the Ravens. Because we know Patrick Mahomes, he's on fire. Look at the last 2 games. You knew when the playoff lights were on that Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes were going to figure it out, and they have to this point. And look, as much as the Ravens are favored in this game, the pressure's on them, right? The Chiefs are playing loose. They're not used to playing on the road, and I think that's a sneaky edge for them in this game.
Yeah, I think so too. Okay, so now, obviously the one thing that's probably going to happen this week is we're going to get a couple coaching hires. Antonio Pierce, late over the weekend, agreed to terms to stay on as the Raiders head coach as he was doing the interview circuit a little bit, but we still have 6 spots available, Vinny, as we're doing the show here now. We've got Atlanta, who's really doing second interviews with a lot of different people, so I wonder which direction this is going to go. And I thought they were definitely hiring Bill Belichick, but why would they be doing second interviews with others? I mean, something tells me he's not going there. That you have Washington, Chargers, who are flirting with Jim Harbaugh. Seattle's gig is still open. Tennessee, we haven't really heard too much about them. In Carolina, I still think this is the reason why we don't hear much about Tennessee and Carolina, Vinny, is because Ben Johnson's ending up with one of those 2. I mean, to me, that's where he's going because I'm not hearing anything about those teams. So what do you make of this week? Does it feel like we're closing in on any of these positions being filled?
Yeah, this is why I had the Falcons as the best opening available. I mean, they obviously have some clout to say, we're going to interview Jim Harbaugh and Bill Belichick multiple times, and they actually might be interested in this job. Well, the Falcons are the team of that group that has been to the Super Bowl last. They have an owner, Arthur Blank, that wants to win and is committed to winning. And they've been 7-10 the last 3 years. So they're right on the cusp, right? If they get a quarterback and a coach that's going to put them in the right direction, you could see a Texans-like turnaround or a Lions-like turnaround very quick with that team in Atlanta. So I think that's also an appeal, right? I mean, I think there's some other work that needs to be done on the Commanders beyond the quarterback. The Titans and Panthers, we're not sure how you can turn on Will Levis and Bryce Young quite yet. So that's why the Falcons are very attractive. And I think the Chargers, I think they're hoping for whoever the Falcons don't get to get that guy and pair him with Justin Herbert.
A couple of notes from the weekend, too, Vinny. I don't know if you have any opinion on this. Looks like the Bears have hired a new offensive coordinator. Looks like Philadelphia is looking for a new defensive coordinator at this point. Any one of those two topics you think is more compelling than the other?
Yeah, I think Shane Waldron is a good get for the Bears. I mean, he just kind of will push the direction forward with Justin Fields, and we saw what he did helping Geno Smith. So I think this is a good guy to get. And from the Rams, anything you tap into the Rams offense is a good idea for Chicago.
All right, Vinny, great to see you. We'll enjoy the games this week, and we'll catch up again soon. Thanks for coming on.
All right, thanks, Craig.
All right, Mike Mazzeo from Legal Sports Report is up next. We'll get into the latest in sports wagering from LegalSportsReport.com. Great reporter, Mike Mazzeo. Go ahead.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev. Go run, run, run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
Right now, he's a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division
I don't care if they win, because all we care about is the money, baby, the money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Last year, the Purdue Boilermakers upset by the 16 seed Fairleigh Dickinson. Is history going to repeat itself?
Purdue is capable of winning 6 games in the NCAA tournament, but the fact is, until Purdue proves that it's capable of not just advancing, but advancing far in the bracket in March, this is going to be the storyline. And I've said that to you throughout the offseason.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
I'm not going to lie. I'm a Knicks fan. I feel bad for Obi Toppin. I mean, Obi Toppin was backing up Julius Randle, and then he got his opportunity in Indiana, was playing great, didn't play D, brought him off the bench, and now they got Pascal Siakam, and now he's going into a free agent year. So Obi may be looking for a new home, but I do like that fast break if it's Halliburton with Obi and Siakam.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
They were best friends. Like Siakam's best friend on the team was Chris Boucher. Chris Boucher's best friend on the team was Pascal Siakam. They're not American, right? So there's different cliques in the NBA, and they were very, very tight. So Chris Boucher, I got rattled seeing Chris Boucher and thinking about the memories. But Raptors responded.
Sports Rage Late Night. Only on SportsGrid.
One that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
back to NewsWire on SportsGrid. Let's get the very latest in sports wagering going on across the country, business side of it as well. We're joined every Monday by Mike Mazzeo from Legal Sports Report. He's in our New York studios. Hey, Mike, great to catch up with you here after the weekend and dive into some of the latest topics going on. Thanks for coming on.
Really nice weekend of football. I was kind of personally hoping the Bills would win just because they haven't, but another wide right. Heard from Las Vegas Journal Review, was just reading their article right before I came on, said the books got destroyed yesterday, one of the sportsbook managers of the Westgate. So, hey, that's good that the majority of the public came out a winner. That's what you want. And certainly going to be more interest here as we have some phenomenal matchups here in these championship games next weekend. So, really fun to watch it. And I'm sure next week's going to be incredible, especially Mahomes against Lamar Jackson. I mean, that's a heck of a quarterback matchup, and I'm sure there's going to be tons of money coming in on that game.
Yeah, can't wait to watch those AFC, NFC championship games next Sunday. All right, well, after that, the hockey season really takes focus for a lot of people. Hockey, NBA, college basketball, still a couple of weeks to go before the Super Bowl. And we saw this player, Shane Pinto, who was suspended for allegations of sports wagering, back on the ice. But that does not mean we've gotten any more clarity as to why he was suspended, which is probably the most bizarre story thus far about an athlete getting suspended for reasons unknown.
Yeah, Craig, came back, had a nice impact with the Senators over the weekend, had an assist. They won the game against the Flyers. So, great to see. But at the same time, I want to keep bringing this up. We brought it up last week. It's like, we still don't know what Shane Pinto did, and it appears there's an agreement with the Players Association that's going to keep that out of the public. You hope at some point it leaks because, again, with the sports books having these relationships with the sports leagues and the sports leagues getting the partnership money, I mean, I don't understand why you would even allow that to happen where the public wouldn't know what's going on, because every week we hear these games are scripted, these games are fixed. I mean, this is going to only add to that perception. At the least, it's just bad optics that we don't know what happened. So we know, again, that he didn't bet on NHL games according to the NHL. We know there was a third party involved according to reports, and we know there's suspicious activity on his sportsbook account that he had opened up. NHL players are allowed to bet on everything but the NHL, and so it's fine if they bet on the NFL or NBA. But we don't know what happened. But half the season is such a long suspension. Nice to see him back. Obviously, we've seen other players come back. Calvin Ridley had a really nice year in Jacksonville after serving a year suspension for this. So on a personal note for him, good job. Good to see him back and contributing and playing the sport he loves. And hopefully he learns from this and can be an example for other players on what not to do, because I'm sure there is talk while the public doesn't know. Surely the players are talking. Their agents are talking, executives, coaches around the league, back-end staffers. I'm sure there are people that know what he did and hopefully know not to do this next time. And hopefully the NHLPA and the NHL have a good, player awareness education program. They've talked about doing this. The NHLPA had another education session on its fall tour. So, yeah, hopefully this is a learning example. But again, I really think there should be transparency here. And I think even if we're the only people banging the drum, like you can't bang the drum enough on this, it should be known what he did. This way other people don't know and the public knows, hey, this sport has integrity, we can trust it. Otherwise, again, you just have those bad optics where people don't know. I mean, what's going on behind the scenes here? It just causes, it raises a lot of questions that the leagues don't need.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, I don't know that we're ever going to get it, and these stories tend to just go away in time. Maybe this one will or won't, but, we'll keep an eye on it. Let's move on to the daily fantasy landscape where, as sports betting is being legalized in a lot of states, it's my belief, Mike, that they're coming down on these DFS companies to make sure that they pay their taxes just the same as these other sports betting companies. Now, there's a differentiation between the two companies, and listen, what they're saying is they want the DFS companies regulated, Mike, so issues like the ones that we're going to talk about don't happen, which is very specifically with Thrive Fantasy, who has had, at the very least, issues paying out their customers. I know that their CEO came out and made a statement about there was some hacking or some other things going on, but the optics of it aren't good. And maybe a lesson in the future for some of these other operators that if you're going to go ahead and try and operate, you better play by the rules, because something like this can happen.
Yeah, Craig, I know you've talked about this on this show with a couple of my colleagues, the Thrive Fantasy story we've been working on here. Got their investor deck. They wanted to raise capital while they were simultaneously allegedly not paying out customers. And like you said, their CEO came out, gave a statement. We couldn't corroborate most of it, but again, it's certainly reasonable to believe they did get hacked. But at the same time, be transparent with your customers, your employees, everyone at your staff, if you're not paying people out, here's why, to go quiet and go dark on these people and, not pay them out and not give them any instructions. And, I've heard that Thrive Fanny has paid at least one customer that was owed, I think, 30 grand allegedly. They gave him 4,000, but they still owe him 26. And he said he hadn't heard any communication with them as of last week. So yeah, tell your people what's going on, but at the same time, pay them out. We've seen this with No House Advantage not paying its customers and then shuttering, Better kind of bailing that outlet out. Heard more rumblings about a company called Units, them potentially not paying out some correlated golf parlays. Again, this is just bad optics for the industry. Unfortunately, we have to talk about this again, but if you're a customer, make sure you read the terms and conditions. Make sure that you're betting on a DFS operator that is legal in the state you're in, because then you will not have the protections. We've seen in the Thrive case, bettors went as high as the attorney general's offices in these states. I think North Carolina and New York that we know of, and Thrive didn't respond to those letters to say, hey, you need to solve this problem. What do you do? What kind of steps are you taking to do this? And they didn't reply, and now they obviously come out with a public statement on what happened. Just hopefully they pay their people out. And Thrive has also had an issue in 2021 as well with not paying their customers out and delayed payments. So you got to figure it out, and the industry has to get better. And it makes all the bigger, even the operators that maybe are operating properly. Your Prize Picks, your Underdogs, the ones that have had their own controversy, obviously, in terms of what's legal and what's not in the space. It just makes everybody look bad. It makes the industry look bad. And, customers, again, when we talk about the sports leagues, like, can customers trust this product? All these problems make it hard for them to do so. So really, you need to be watchful as a consumer where you're putting your money to make sure you can get it out. If you bet it and you'll win.
Yeah. And Mike, I don't know if you know the answer to this, but definitely as a reporter, the next step that I would take is finding out, and I talked about this last week on the show too, is if they're still accepting deposits. I don't know if you know the answer to that, but if they are,
as far as
they
I know,
should be paying out.
As far as I know, right. As far as I know, they are. And that is the thing where, you want to get this out into the public to make sure, hey, this operator's had some questionable things, whether they're doing things right or not. A lot of customers who seem like good people based on the fact I've talked to a lot of them say they're not doing the right thing. So be careful if you're going to put your money here, or try to get it out if you can even do that, and go bet somewhere else where you can trust that product.
Yeah, I mean, very shady situation going on now, especially with the accepting of money and not paying out. I hate to see that. Here's something else I hate to see, that some NFL players, Mike, are stating that they're getting money requests from fans when they don't hit their props. What in the world's going on here?
Yeah, this was Fox Sports talked to Tommy DeVito and Saquon Barkley of the Giants. And they're just the latest athletes to say it, right? They're saying, well, people are congratulating us maybe when they win their bets. But then when they lose, we're getting Venmo and Cash App requests. Hey, I just lost $200 on your rushing yards under prop or over. I want a refund, right, from the player himself. And as Tommy DeVito put it perfectly, he's like, we hope these people win, but that's the gambling aspect of it. When you're gambling, you're not 100% going to win. You hope you do. You probably trick yourself in your mind for a lot of people to think you're going to win, but you're taking a shot here. The game plan doesn't always go the way you hope it will, or the score doesn't always go the way you hope it will. Saquon's, you bet is over and they fall behind and they have to pass the ball, and right. The Giants fell behind a lot this year. So yeah, it's kind of a scary situation. It's the way of the world right now. Gambling was around before, but it's very, much more mainstream, obviously, in your face with all the advertising at the arenas and stadiums, and then on TV during, timeouts and stuff. It's something the athletes are going to have to deal with. Hopefully they deal with it in the right way. Hopefully they don't get, a lot of the bills and stuff coming out to protect, athletes from potentially harmful situations with, getting accosted or threatened or harassed by, losing bettors or bookies or whoever it might be. Those protections have to be in place, and you hope people are, not getting out of line. But clearly, these aren't the only athletes that have talked about this. Kevin Durant has talked about this on Twitter. People asking him when he doesn't hit his over points prop, that people ask him for money. But as he put it, I'm not getting a cutback when I win your bet. You're not sending me $20 if you win 200 or whatever it would be. So right. Yeah, people just need to be smart. Don't bet over your limit, right? That's the thing with the problem gambling. Don't get yourself in deep where you have to go ask an athlete for money. I mean, that's just, it's ridiculous, honestly.
Yeah, definitely. I can imagine that request coming in on my phone and looking at that. We got a couple of minutes to go, Mike. Let's close it out here on Fanatics. Looks like a violation on a futures wager.
Yeah, Craig. So Fanatics just the latest one. I mean, it feels like almost every operator in Massachusetts has done something wrong, even if it's kind of just a slap on the wrist, right? They took a futures bet on Boston College bowl game, I believe, on December 28th. Caught it before the game, reported it to the regulator as you're supposed to do. Encore Boston Harbor did something similar where they took in a small, wager, reported it, and they ended up getting a $10,000 fine from the Massachusetts Gaming Commission. So, Fanatics are going to face an adjudicatory hearing. I'm sure they'll go through the same protocols. Potentially they end up with the same fine, and hopefully they don't do it again, like a lot of these other operators have had one and dones in Massachusetts. But yeah, I mean, these are things that shouldn't happen. This one was apparently human error by a trader. You hope this stuff doesn't happen. I'm sure they're going to take care of it. And we move on in Massachusetts with sports betting.
Well, Mike, good stuff as always on the show today. Looking forward to catching up with you again next week. Thanks for coming on NewsWire. Have a great one.
My pleasure, Craig. Thanks a lot.
All right, Mike Mazzeo. You can follow him on social media and all of his work over at LegalSportsReport.com. Coming up next, we've got a preview of 2 games in the NBA tonight, courtesy of Ben Stevens, and then our friend Warren Sharp delivers the Sharp Report, recapping the NFL games and looking ahead to some positions this weekend. We'll be right back.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev. Go run, run, run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
So right now he's a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division
I don't
favorite.
care if they win because all we care about is the money, baby.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Last year, the Purdue Boilermakers upset by the 16 seed Fairleigh Dickinson. Is history going to repeat itself?
Purdue is capable of winning 6 games in the NCAA tournament, but the fact is, until Purdue proves that it's capable of not just advancing, but advancing far in the bracket in March, this is going to be the storyline. And I've said that to you throughout the offseason.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
I'm not going to lie. I'm a Knick fan. I feel bad for Obi Toppin. I mean, Obi Toppin was backing up Julius Randle, and then he got his opportunity. Indiana was playing great, didn't play deep, brought him off the bench, and now they got Pascal Siakam, and now he's going into a free agent year. So Obi may be looking for a new home. But I do like that fast break if it's Halliburton with Obi and Siakam.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
They were best friends. Like Siakam's best friend on the team was Chris Boucher. Chris Boucher's best friend on the team was Pascal Siakam. They're not American, right? So there's different cliques in the NBA, and they were very, very tight. So Chris Boucher, I got rattled seeing Chris Boucher and thinking about the memories. But Raptors responded.
Sports Rage Late Night. Only on SportsGrid.
One that's been to a sporting event. The atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
back to NewsWire. We've got a ton of great games in the NBA this week. We thought we would preview a couple tonight. Boston Celtics on the road at the Dallas Mavericks, and the Chicago Bulls going to take on the Phoenix Suns. Those are just two games on the slate tonight. Here's a preview with Ben Stevens.
Craig, a new week begins in the association. And again, we've said this before, but as the NFL season and football as we know it comes to a close and we start to focus even more on the NBA, don't think it's a fresh beginning. We're already past the midway point of this 2023-24 NBA regular season. Most teams around the league now past that midway point of 41 of 82 regular season games, including the NBA's best team. That would be the Boston Celtics, a 33-10 record for the C's, Craig. On the road, second leg of a back-to-back. For Boston, they remain in the Lone Star State. Yesterday, a victory over the Rockets, but did not cover as a double-digit favorite. But speaking of that favored side, you'd see this 3.5-point spread in favor of Jason Tatum and Boston. A 33-10 straight-up record. That's 43 games this year. Boston has been booked as an underdog, as the favored side in 40 of those 43 games. 19-1 against the number for the Celtics as the favorite. Now heading into Dallas, making the trip from Houston overnight, a 3.5-point spread. The Mavs, the underdog. Luka Doncic now back in the lineup after missing a couple of games the last few weeks. The Mavericks as an underdog this year, Craig, got off to a very slow start covering numbers. One of the worst teams as an underdog in the association. Just 2-8 through the first 2.5 months of this NBA season. In their last games as an underdog, though, they have been very good, covering in 6 of the last 7, now 8-9 against the spread as a dog. And again, in 6 of those last 7 covers, the Mavs have won outright as the underdog 5 times. Now we go from the NBA's best team to one of the hottest at the moment. The Phoenix Suns, Craig, and Kevin Durant have won 5 consecutive games. Second leg of a back-to-back for the Suns as well, but they remain at home in the Valley, a 5.5-point favorite against DeMar DeRozan and the Chicago Bulls. The Bulls this year, Craig, as a dog, 12-12-1 against the spread. Phoenix as the favored side, pushing yesterday, 7-point win at home against the Indiana Pacers. They were a 7-point favorite. So, Craig, this year as a favorite, 10-18-2 ATS. Phoenix not necessarily covering numbers, booked as the favorite. But again, that's 5 straight wins for KD, Bradley Beal, and Devin Booker, the big 3 in Phoenix, now fully into the fold. Also pay attention to this total. 228 and a hook, Craig, is that number tonight out in the Valley. In the 5-game win streak for the Phoenix Suns, they have gone under in 4 of those last 5 games. So we'll look back at these games one final time and get ready for a Monday night slate around the association.
All right, thanks very much, Ben. We'll check back with Ben tomorrow on the show. Now let's dive into the latest in the NFL, some recaps, and look ahead to championship weekend. Here's Warren Sharp. Time now for the Sharp Report. Hey, Warren, great to have you back here. Look, some competitive games this weekend, but I think that if we could do it all over again and just ask for a replay of that Sunday night game, regardless of the other games, we would take it. I thought that was a really fun way to end the weekend, and with some comedy at the end, with some mistakes and stuff like that too. But overall, a much better and more fun weekend than we had during Wild Card Weekend, without a doubt.
No doubt. And look, those games Sunday, even the game Saturday night, the competitive nature of both of them, how they fell very close to the point spread. And this is why there just wasn't a ton of pre-flop value, in my opinion, especially on Sunday. It's hard to race to the window to try to grab one of these sides when the game is a coin flip at the very end there. Do they get the 2-point conversion in the Lions game or do they not? Do the Bills score? Do they not? And so those games could have easily flipped late, and that's why it was so fun to watch both of them.
Yeah, and that's the nature of this time of the year. You got to find props or some other ways to get down. I mean, these lines are going right down to the end. The total in this game we're going to talk about here, Texans, Ravens, I mean, you talk about down to the wire. I mean, Baltimore dominated this game, but I was fascinated seeing this total rise. I mean, in this game in particular, because of that Tucker field goal, you had some people win, some people lose, and some people push. I mean, and that just tells the story betting on the NFL in these like one-game slates. But Baltimore dominated the second half of this game more, and Houston, they put 10 points up. 7 was on a kickoff return. I take nothing away from Houston. What an incredible, unprecedented season by drafting a quarterback, being the worst team in the NFL for 2 or 3 years running, and getting to this point. They just ran into the team that is playing the best of any other in the NFL.
They did, but the problem for the Baltimore Ravens was they did not start out this game playing the best. And I don't know if it was the extra layoff and the fact that they weren't playing last week and they didn't play their starters the week before that as well. But this is a team that really looked rusty out the gates. But worse than that, I didn't understand how they were getting their plays in. If you go back and rewatch this game, Lamar Jackson is getting to the line with like 6 seconds left. They're having to get everybody down and just snap the ball. He has no time to survey the defense. I don't understand why the plays were taking so long to come into the game. I don't know why they were running the football to the rate that they were. They started to make adjustments in the second half by throwing the ball a little bit shorter, which is what they probably should have done in the first half of the game. I mean, with the wind and the defense, which was so good against the run, that's what they needed to lean into. And an advantage that they had over the Houston Texans offense was the Ravens have a very adept short passing attack, and they just weren't leaning into it nearly as much as they should. I didn't understand how they were their philosophy out the gates there with their play calling and the time getting in. But at the end of the day, obviously the better team won, the right team won, they advanced, but they're not going to be able to make those same mistakes against the Chiefs this upcoming week.
No, I think that's well said. But again, if you only watch the second half of that game, you would have thought, wow, like one team doesn't deserve to be on the other team on the field with the other team. But the first half definitely shaky. Very shaky game for the San Francisco 49ers as they end up defeating the Green Bay Packers. Shanahan has had no success being down 7 as late as he was, but San Francisco rallies late in this one to win 24-21. Also, just like I said about Houston, hats off to the Green Bay Packers. I mean, what a season for them going into the year. Look back in October where they were to be within a play or two of beating San Francisco. Future very, very bright for Green Bay. And if you're a fan of the 49ers, I don't know, Warren, are you feeling like great going into this game against Detroit? I know the line has moved now on MGM. We'll get to that. But San Francisco not playing their best football at this stage. There's no question about that.
The main thing that shocked me was just Brock Purdy. I mean, Brock Purdy in the rain. It's just kryptonite, It's like a gremlin. You can't get him wet, or they will turn into the gremlin. Like, I don't understand how he could play that poorly just because of a few droplets of rain. I guess it's his hand size and maybe it's confidence. I'm not quite sure everything that's involved there, but hopefully we get a clean game. That's one thing I like. I like everybody on a level playing surface in conditions that you can handicap straightforward going into the game. We sort of knew that this game was going to have that rain, and it's one of the reasons why I held off on betting the over, because I did think that there was the potential for some scoring there. And certainly the Green Bay Packers did their fair share of trips down into the red zone and just were not walking away with points. And that's obviously what sunk the ship for them. They had a legitimate shot at advancing. And if I'm the 49ers, look, they got scared. They won. They escaped. Hopefully they don't get rain. They got a home game. And I would be turning the page and looking forward to how I can ratchet things up here against the feisty Lions team.
Yeah, Lions playing very good offensively, defensively still having their challenges a little bit as the Buccaneers scored a late touchdown in this game. The final was 31-23. This was, I had the over in this one, so I was a big fan of that play being my favorite one. I got to tell you, I did not think for about an hour and a half of this game there was any chance of this game going over the total. Even into deep of the second half, I'm like, oh my gosh, what a terrible pick. And then all of a sudden, both defenses just laid down, especially Tampa Bay. All of a sudden couldn't stop Jahmyr Gibbs. He's running all over the place. They're throwing all over the field. I mean, truth be told, Goff made some great throws, too, to Amon-Ra St. Brown after a horrible first half for Goff, too. So better team to me, Warren, won this one fair and square.
Agreed. It was a lot of fun watching Baker Mayfield kind of, I don't want to say turn his career around, but certainly impress a lot of people compared to what we had previously thought. They made a legitimate, solid run into the postseason after a really good season. And I don't think there's anything to hang your head about if you're the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm excited to see what the Lions do in this next round. Certainly their pass defense is very susceptible. I was a little surprised at how bad their run defense was, even though I hit some of my stronger props there on Rashard White unders. He was having a good game up until really they got game scripted out of it more or less their late third, early fourth quarter. So really fun game to watch, certainly, and looking forward to see what the Lions can do next week in San Francisco. But that's Jared Goff outdoors. We'll talk more about that on Friday, but they're going to have to step things up big time.
Yeah, it's going to have to be different because Goff's record outside just completely different than inside. We've seen this time and time again. Okay, so Friday here on the show, we both agreed. This is a coin flip game. It was a coin flip game from the beginning. It was a coin flip game at the end. And unfortunately for Buffalo's kicker, Tyler Bass, who did not kick the game-tying field goal, that proved to be the difference in the end. But we're not going to complain. We got one of the best games of the year, Warren, on Sunday night as the Chiefs are now headed back to a 6th championship game. An extremely fun, clean game, and then the hijinks ensue late in the game with a fake punt. Chiefs get the ball back to put the game away. They literally could have just sat down 3 times, kicked the field goal, probably won the game, but instead they hand the ball to McCole Hardman, who fumbles at the end. Bills get the ball back. So I got no complaints with this game, man. It entertained me for 3 hours. One of the best games of the year, I thought.
Agree with the last sentiment. I will complain about this, though. I do not understand the philosophy the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen had there. After the 2-minute warning, they had a 2nd and 9. And the goal at this point with the Kansas City Chiefs having a couple timeouts and being up 3 points is, at worst case, you're going to settle for a field goal. But you need to try to milk the clock. Your 2 opponents are not just the scoreboard. It's also the clock and time that's left there, in addition to being down. You don't want Patrick Mahomes to get the ball back. And I thought it was just irresponsible for him to take that deep shot into the end zone. I talked a lot about it on X. I thought that they should have hit that underneath route to Diggs. He was wide open. It would have been easily a first down, potentially, if not an 8-9 yard gain. They could have set up a 3rd and short at worst. And then the 3rd down situation, you just got to get closer to the end zone. There are wide open guys underneath. Okay, they're not going to get a first down, but you got to give your kicker an opportunity in this swirling winds that they were having there, rather than just throwing the ball away out of the end zone and stopping the clock. And of course, we know what happened. The funny part about it is some of the debates is like, oh, well, you got the hypothetical. Well, this hand on this hand, they tried the shot. The guy was open. I don't blame him. Guess what? The fact of the matter is the hypothetical is not that they tried the shot. The hypothetical is they should have thrown it to Diggs, or what happens when the Chiefs get the ball back after you score a touchdown. You actually tried what you wanted to do. You tried to throw the touchdown to these guys that are arguing it was a good play, and it missed because it's a slightly low percentage opportunity. Who knows what happens if he even gets the ball deeper and doesn't get pushed? Is there a defensive player in the way in terms of being able to tip the ball? We don't know what was going to happen there. But that pass that actually occurred, what did that result in? The Kansas City Chiefs kneeling on the football in Buffalo Stadium and the Bills losing the game. So I thought that was mismanaged completely, in my opinion.
I know we're going to have a preview Friday, Warren. Did you take any position on any of the games yet when the lines came out? We got to go in 20 seconds, sorry.
I did not, but I've got some things for you Friday. I'm really looking forward to this card.
Okay, fair enough. Line's pretty much solid right now over on BetMGM. All right, we'll be back with more and wrap it up next. Don't go away.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev. Go run, run, run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
Right now, he's a little bit more over money, but he's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division favorite.
I don't care if they win, because all we care about is the money, baby, the money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Last year, the Purdue Boilermakers upset by the 16 seed Fairleigh Dickinson. Is history going to repeat itself?
Purdue is capable of winning 6 games in the NCAA tournament, but the fact is, until Purdue proves that it's capable of not just advancing, but advancing far in the bracket in March, this is going to be the storyline. And I've said that to you throughout the offseason.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
I'm not going to lie. I'm a Knicks fan. I feel bad for Obi Toppin. I mean, Obi Toppin was backing up Julius Randle, And then he got his opportunity. Indiana was playing great, didn't play D, brought him off the bench. And now they got Pascal Siakam, and now he's going into a free agent year. So Obi may be looking for a new home. But I do like that fast break if it's Halliburton with Obi and Siakam.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
They were best friends. Like Siakam's best friend on the team was Chris Boucher. Chris Boucher's best friend on the team was Pascal Siakam. They're not American, right? So there's different cliques in the NBA. And they were very, very tight. So Chris Boucher, I got rattled seeing Chris Boucher and thinking about the memories, but Raptors responded.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
One that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Well, every day we come back here on NewsWire, and my producer Sam is all excited because we're going to have some big hot stove baseball stories. But the problem is we've gone November, December, and January into very few of them because the hot stove just didn't happen this year. We had Shohei Ohtani, we had Yamamoto. All right, I don't know why. Don't ask me, but we did have one this weekend, so we'll end with it. Josh Hader ended up signing a multi-year deal with the Houston Astros. Did not get exactly that $100 million he was looking for. Came up just short, $95 million. But what he does with the Astros is he gives them a closing option from the left side. Of course, Ryan Presley is closing for the Astros from the right side. Gives them a very formidable 1-2 punch. But my hope, folks, my hope is that after these AFC and NFC championship games are gone, because, again, we only have one football game left, and that's the Super Bowl, is that all of the signings happen in between then and the opening up of spring training, which is right around Valentine's Day. So I don't have the answer. I don't know why this offseason has gone the way it has. Still many free agents are out there, like Cody Bellinger and Blake Snell, a former MVP, former Cy Young Award winner, and then like 40 or 50 guys in that mid-level that are still going to sign contracts as well right before the season begins. So hopefully the floodgates open up at some point, but I would not guarantee that. Like my picks, would not guarantee those either. All right, that'll do it for our show today. Thanks again to Warren Sharp for coming on, and Ben Stevens, Vinnie Iyer, and Mike Mazzeo. Thanks to our associate producer, Frankie, our producer, Sam. I'm Craig Mish. As a reminder, coming up next, it is the early line, and then Pharrell Coast to Coast. Scott has got you covered, recapping all of the games in the National Football League, taking an early look at the championship games coming up this weekend as well. I'll be back with you tomorrow morning for our next edition of NewsWire. I believe my buddy Mike Cameron, former member of the Seattle Mariners and New York Mets, Cincinnati Reds, played for the Marlins a short time. We'll talk some baseball with him tomorrow here on NewsWire and get ahead of this spring training coming up in a couple of weeks. So until then, enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy your Monday night. No football tonight for the first time in a while. And I will see you back here on SportsGrid in the morning.